Today, we'll be covering various aspects of the challenge of ensuring that everyone has access to safe and nutritious food, the critical issue of global food security. New hope against hunger. These super beans offer higher yields and better nutrition to combat food insecurity. The challenge of feeding the world. Addressing the complex issues of food production, distribution, and access to ensure global food security. Rising food prices and poverty. The negative impact of inflation and poverty on food access and affordability in developing nations. Population growth and urbanization. The effects of rapid population growth and urbanization on global food security and including increased demand and reduced farmland. Rising incomes and changing diets. How changing dietary preferences and increasing incomes impact global food security and sustainability. Biofuel production, land use changes and access to land. The potential conflicts between biofuel production, land use changes, and access to land for food production. Climate change. The impact of climate change on agricultural production, food availability and distribution, and the need for adaptation strategies to ensure global food security. Good day! No matter what time you are watching us, we will give you news on what is happening in our country and the world. Welcome to Philippine News. I am Alan Ferrer.
I am Nicole Sanchez, and our top stories today is about global food security. But before we get to the issues, let's go first to global issue. What exactly is global food safety and why do we need to know it? And how can it be so? Joining me by line, an expert in food security, Ms. Maybelline De La Cruz.
Hello, good day. Thank you for having me.
Can you first inform us about today's condition of food security around the world?
Climate change, land degradation, and water scarcity are impacting agricultural production, while conflict and economic insecurity are causing food insecurity in many regions of the world. In some areas, food prices have increased as a result of supply chain disruption brought on by COVID-19 outbreak.
What can be done to address these challenges?
There are several actions we can take to improve global food security. I suggest investing in sustainable agricultural practices that conserve land and water resources and supporting small-scale farmers, reducing food waste, and improving the efficiency of supply chains as possible solutions.
What can individuals do to contribute to global food security?
Individuals can also contribute by making sustainable choices and supporting organizations that work towards addressing food security. Actually, we have a page where you can check out our organization and see information about food safety and how you help. Just visit the page pfsorganization.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maybelline, for sharing those ideas. It is evident that effort must be made at all levels to address the complicated issue of global food security. I'll be back with you again in a minute.
Newsers, Editors, and Wire Services has released an article called New Hope Against Hunger. These super beans early signs of success in Africa. Researchers have developed a new variety of bean that could help feed hungry population in Africa. Reporter Irish is here to discuss and answer the article released by Newsers, Editors, and Wire Services. What does the news headline tell us?
Thank you, Miss Alin. The news headline tells us about the promotion of a new variety of beans called the super beans by Uganda's government and agriculture expert to address hunger in Africa.
Why do you think the discovery of super beans can really solve hunger in the country, in the continent, and in the globe at large?
The discovery of super beans is a positive development, but it might not be the only solution to solving hunger in the country continent, and a globe. A multifaceted approach that addresses poverty, conflict, and access to education and healthcare is necessary to address hunger.
Why do you think scientists like the ones in Africa continue to research for things that address hunger?
Scientists continue to research for things that address hunger because it is a critical issue that affects millions of people globally, particularly in developing countries. Hunger has significant social, economic, and health consequences. It can help reduce poverty and promote sustainable development.
Is the problem of food, nutrition, and disease common in the Philippines? Can you give us examples?
Yes, food, nutrition, and disease are common problem in the Philippines. According to the World Program, 1 in 3 children in the Philippines suffers from stunting or chronic malnutrition, and the country is also facing a rising prevalence of overweight and obesity. The country also experienced prevalent disease related to poor nutrition such as diabetes and heart disease.
Can you name of government organization and programs that address such problems?
The Philippine government has several organizations and programs that address these problems, including the Department of Agriculture, which implements programs to increase food production and promote sustainable agriculture. The National Nutrition Council, which focuses on addressing malnutrition and promoting healthy eating habits. The government also provides free healthcare to indigent families through the program of PhilHealth.
Thank you for that information. For more, joining us here is our reporter Nicole Ramirez, who will give us more details on this story. Nicole, can you tell us about this new development?
Thank you, Ms. Allen. The International Center for Tropical Agriculture has developed a new type of fast-maturing, high-yielding bean called a super bean. It is traditionally bred to withstand drought, making it a promising solution to fight hunger in America.
That's interesting. Tell me more about the benefits of these super beans.
Of course, super beans are being promoted by the Ugandan government and agricultural experts to target famine-prone regions of Africa. There are also a step towards creating super beans by gene editing. These beans are pleasing farmers in poor areas of northern Uganda, which have also seen an influx of refugees from southern Sudan. Soybeans has the potential to help refugees grow their own food and become more self-sufficient.
This appears to have the potential to have a significant impact on the fight against hunger in Africa. What is the environmental impact of this new development?
The International Center for Tropical Agriculture runs one of the 2 bean gene banks expected to be hit hardest by climate change in Africa. Although the African continent produces less than 4% of the world's greenhouse gases, it is still expected to suffer the effects of climate change. Bank beans are sent to partners in 30 countries across the continent for further development to suit local conditions.
This is arguably an important development in the fight against hunger in Africa. Thank you for bringing this story to us, Nicole Ramirez.
Up on the list, the challenge of feeding the world. Joining me is Carlene De Leon. Carlene, what can you tell us about the current state of global food security?
Well, Ms. Nicole, the increase in global food prices has become a major concern for governments worldwide. The vulnerability of food system to various factors such as demographic, socioeconomic, environmental, and policy-related issues has also been alarming. These factors have detrimental impacts on poor and marginalized communities, especially in developing countries.
That's a very concerning situation. But how do the changes in local food systems affect regional and global food security?
The changes in local food systems can have a significant influence on regional and global food security concerns. In turn, the developments at the global level can penetrate deep within the regions and states to cause high levels of insecurity. These developments may also have diverse and far-reaching consequences for the security and overall well-being of communities across borders.
What are some of the steps being taken to address these challenges?
Governments and international organizations are taking several steps to address the challenges of global food security. For example, they are investing in sustainable agriculture practices that conserve land and water resources while increasing yields. They are also promoting policies that support small-scale farmers who often face the greatest food insecurity. Additionally, they are working to reduce food waste and improve the efficiency of supply chains to ensure that food reaches those who need it most.
It's clear that global food security is a complex issue that requires action at all levels. Thank you, Carlin De Leon, for shedding light on this important topic.
We love our food in Singapore, but when we import 90% of what we eat, climate change can hit us hard. Temperatures soar, oceans heat up, affecting our food supply. Less to buy, less to eat, less food security. That's why we're changing the game by buying from more countries, growing our own here and overseas, so we can all eat better for years to come. Let's game change food security.
Welcome again. Before we get to the issues, let's go first to global issue. Up on the list, we're discussing an evolving concept of food security. Joining us again in line is our expert, Ms. Maybelline de la Cruz, about food security. Ms. Maybelline, can you please explain what food security means and how it is evolved over time?
Thank you again for having me. Food security has been defined in many different ways over the years, but it essentially refers to ability of people to access enough food to meet their basic needs. The concept has evolved over time, particularly over the past few decades, with three major paradigm shifts.
Can you tell us more about those shifts?
Sure, the first shift occurred in late 1970s and early 1980s, when there was a move away from focusing solely on food availability and supplies as core concern of food security. The second is highlighted the importance of livelihood security as a key household priority and component of food security. The last shift moved away from purely calorie counting approach to food security to one that incorporated subjective measure of what it means to be food secure, including access to food that is preferable.
That's interesting. How is food security measured?
The FAO has defined food security as existing when all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meet their dietary needs and food preference for an active and healthy life. There are different ways to measure food security, including through household survey, food balance sheet, and other indicators that look at food availability, access, utilization, and stability.
Thank you, Ms. Maybelline de la Cruz, for explaining these shifts and how food security is measured. It's clear that food security is a complex and evolving concept that requires ongoing attention and action.
Up on the list discusses the rise of food prices and the impact it has on poverty around the world. Joining us now is our reporter Juliana de la Cruz, who has been following this issue closely. Juliana, can you tell us more about the mid-2000s global food price crisis?
Absolutely. The mid-2000s saw global food prices skyrocket with key staple wheat, rice, maize, soy, and edible oils, all seeing significant increases. This led to civil unrest in the form of protests and riots in many countries around the world.
That's certainly concerning. But who was most affected by the spike in food prices?
The impact of these spikes was most devastating to those living in poverty, In fact, the global food price increases in 2007 and 2008 may have forced as many as 100 million people deeper into poverty, while the 2010 and 2011 spike may have pushed an additional 44 million people in the poverty and food insecurity since that have been.
Wow, those numbers are staggering. What are some of the reasons that have been debated for the global food price spikes?
There are several factors that have been debated, including the ongoing growth of the world, population, and rising per capita food consumptions, additional the rising costs of fuel and agriculture inputs like fertilizers and pesticides, adverse weather events such as rouge and floods, and energetic government's expert bans in the face of food shortage have all contributed to the problem. And let's not forget about financial implications, agriculture, commodities, which can also play a role.
It's clear that this is a complex issue with many contributing factors. Thank you for shedding some light on it for us, Juliana.
Up on the list focuses on population growth and urbanization and how they impact global food security. Our reporter, Jessa Navarro, has been investigating this issue. Jessa, what have you found?
Well, Miss Allen, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, by mid-century the world's population is set to reach over 9 billion, doubling the demand for food, feed, and fiber. This increase in demand is particularly prevalent in developing countries in Asia and Africa.
That's a staggering figure. What implications does this have for food systems in the region and elsewhere?
It has serious implications, Ms. Allen, as the youth move from rural areas to urban areas in search of better livelihoods. There are fewer people of working age left behind to produce the growing quantities of food required to meet rising demand in urban areas. The mass movement of people from rural to urban areas has also been accompanied by a rapid and ongoing expansion of cities and slums in parts of Asia.
That sounds concerning. What impact does this expansion have on food security?
The expansion of cities and slums means that the access to clean drinking water, adequate sanitation, and waste disposal mechanism becomes increasingly limited. This makes the resident population highly vulnerable to quick-spreading diseases and chronic food insecurity. According to the Center for International Security Studies, or CISS, by 2030, urban populations and the number of slum dwellers in Africa are set to double.
It seems that this is a growing concern that requires immediate attention. Jessa, thank you for shedding light on this issue.
We have a deep-rooted love for growing, watching the earth come to life, growing vegetables with a greater mission, the love of creating delicious flavors. We believe in healthier, better lives. It's our passion, ground to table. From our farmers to our chefs, to you, Wegmans. Love your veggies.
In recent years, the world has seen a significant rise in food prices, population growth, and changing diets, which are all having a significant impact on the global food system. To discuss these issues in detail, we have our correspondent with us, reporter Mary Alexis Cruz. So, Mary, what can you tell us about rising incomes and changing diets?
Thank you,
mystical as incomes in developing countries to continue grow with people are able to access food in greater quantities. Initially, people tend to consume more key staples like cereals, but then there's a substitution phase where people start to consume more energy-rich foods such as meat and those with high concentration vegetable oil and sugar. This phenomenon is called nutrition transition.
Okay, that's interesting. So, how much has global consumption of meat increased?
Well, according to research, global consumption of meat increased by around 62% between 1963 and 2005. And much of the growth of meat consumption took place in Asia in general and in China in particular. The consumption of meat in developing countries grew therefore during this period.
That's quite a significant increase. However, I'm sure that not all developing countries are experiencing this nutrition transition equally, are they, Mary?
That's correct, Ms. Nicole. In India, for example, the consumption of meat continues to lag behind when compared to Brazil and China for people at similar income level. But overall, the demand for grains for a direct and indirect consumption through animal products continue to expand.
And what about the impact of intensive monocropping of soybeans and maize for animal feed on the environment?
In China, the increasing conversion of land for intensive monocropping of soybean and maize for animal feed for decades has caused immense pollution of waterways by pesticides and fertilizer, declines in biodiversity, the destruction of natural carbon sink, and rising greenhouse gas emission.
That's a very serious issue. Thank you, Mary, for shedding light on this important topic.
Up on the list, we will be discussing the controversial topics of biofuel production, land use change, and access to land. To discuss these issues in detail, we have our correspondent with us, reporter Eloisa Jano Chanko. So, Eloisa, can you tell us about this issue?
That's right, Ms. Aline. The global surge in biofuel production began in 2004-2005, when the United States and the European Union adopted policy and intensive to boost biofuels consumption. While biofuels are seen as significant in reducing dependence on fossil fuel, become highly controversial in the context of global security.
Why is that, Eloisa?
The first generation biofuels are produced from plants, starch, oil and animal fats, and sugar, which include food crops such as sugarcane, maize, wheat, sugar beets, and sugar sorghum. The United States and Brazil are the world's largest bioethanol producing country, while the largest quantities of biodiesel, which is made from edible oils, come from Germany, France, and United States and Italy.
So, the production of biofuel is causing a shortage of food crops?
Exactly, Ms. Aline. Jean Ziegler, the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food, has stated that the suddenly inconserved rush to convert food into fuel is a recipe for disaster. In fact, the IMF highlighted that biofuels were responsible for almost half the increase in the total consumption of key food crops in 2006-2007.
That's alarming. Are there any concerns related to biofuel production?
Yes, Ms. Aline. The production of biofuels requires a large amount of land, which can cause land use change and access to land issue. In Asia, for example, a large number of small farmers in countries like Colombia, Laos, the Philippines, Bangladesh, and Nepal continue to suffer from weak access to land and tenure, insecurity in the wider context of weak governance institutions, poor law enforcement, and endemic corruption.
That's a very serious issue. Thank you for shedding light on this, Eloisa.
You're welcome, Ms. Celine. Important for us to become aware of the consequence of our action and to work towards sustainable solution.
That's absolutely right. Thank you, Eloisa.
Climate change and its impact on food security are growing concerns. Our reporter Ana Altea Anasio has more on this. Ana, what can you tell us?
Thanks, Ms. Nicole. Climate change affects all aspects of food security, from food availability to food utilization and food system stability. Agriculture is a high sensitive to climate, and food production is directly impacted by variations in agroecological conditions for growing crops. Study shows that the impacts of climate change will be mixed and uneven across the regions.
So, what does this mean for global food production?
Well, according to the IPCC, over the next 4 decades, the average global temperature will rise by 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. This will have a significant impact on countries located in seasonal dry and tropical regions, with the productivity of major crops like rice, wheat, and maize projected to drop even with the small increases in local average temperature.
Oh, sounds concerning. Well, which countries are likely to be the most affected?
Low-income developing countries, especially those lacking adequate infrastructure for healthcare and basic amenities like clean drinking water and sanitation, are set to suffer the most. Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, which already have the highest level of hunger and malnutrition worldwide, will be severely impacted by climate change on crop productions.
Okay, that's quite alarming. But thank you for bringing this to our attention, Anna.
It is clear that food security is a multifaceted issue that impacted by various factors, including rising incomes and changing diets, biofuel production, land use change and access to land, and climate change.
That's right. It is essential that we take a closer look at these issues and come up with solutions to ensure that food security is not compromised. We need to work towards creating sustainable agricultural practices, reducing waste, and increasing access to food for all.
And that's all for our report on food security. Thank you for watching Philippine News. I am Alan Jane Ferrer, and we hope this has shed light on the importance of addressing these issues for a better future.
And I'm Nicole Sanchez. Stay tuned for more news and updates on the most pressing issues of our time.